Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Regional School District 19 Annual Public Budget Presentation. As you can see, I am here at E.O. Smith High School without my board tonight and without the public. We are living in unusual times, and tonight we're going to do the presentation and live stream it to you. You will have an opportunity to ask questions as you send them via email to SUPT, S-U-P-T, at eosmith.org. My assistant Mindy is gathering those questions, and at the end of this presentation I'll answer any questions that you have. So at this time I'd like to run through my budget presentation with you. So I always like to begin these presentations talking about our purpose, and as you know, our purpose is educating the students of the region, Mansfield, Ashford, Willington, as well as students from Columbia, Wyndham, and Coventry who attend our ag program. So here you see a couple of different classes here, a math class and a science class. Oops, sorry about that. So our mission. Edwin O. Smith High School is a community of learners committed to academic excellence, personal achievement, and integrity. Students are encouraged to respect and learn from differences, to become self-directed learners who demonstrate a sense of responsibility, to contribute as literate members of an interdependent world. Our E.O. Smith community in the last year is engaged in a deep dive into what we think are the important things for our graduates, and we've developed a vision of a learner. So an E.O. Smith learner passionately engages in the process of acquiring knowledge to independently find and apply a deeper understanding to themselves and new situations they encounter. E.O. Smith graduates will be prepared to work collaboratively with others to find solutions to face the challenges of the future with creative thought and purpose. The E.O. Smith graduate is a problem solver, critical thinker, active citizen, a communicator, and someone who demonstrates curiosity, personal responsibility, and content literacy. The E.O. Smith graduate, and we'll put this presentation online for you if you want to look at it in more detail. I'm not going to read each of those to you, but again, the E.O. Smith graduate is a communicator, personally responsible, problem solver, critical thinker, active citizen, content literate, and curious. One of the things we pride ourselves a lot on here at E.O. Smith is our sense of community. And as you might imagine, these times we're living in right now have been challenging for us because we are not having that opportunity to have the face-to-face, day-to-day contact with our students. But I've showed you here a number of our events that highlight some of the sense of community we have here. That's our Unified Sports Spirit Day with our social studies teachers and our homecoming event. Again, here's other activities students are involved in here. Our drumline, football, and our students in the cafeteria. So now to get into the details. We have 1,190 students that we're responsible for in the region. You can see the majority of those are at E.O. Smith High School. That's 1,041 students. This year we have 12 students in our STAR program. Our STAR program is the student program for students who are 18 to 21 in special education. Students Transitioning to Age-Appropriate Roots is the name of that program. We have the Depot campus, our big picture school, an alternative learning style, 22 students, 13 students that are outplaced, and 20 students that we pay tuition for students to attend magnet schools. And our tech school transportation. We have 79 students from the region's 3 towns that are transported to technical schools. And if you look at the enrollment by town, you can see Mansfield has more than half of our students, 554, Willington 202, Ashford 196, Columbia 137, Wyndham 68, Coventry 23, and then a variety of other students come to us from 10 other towns. Our demographics, our special education numbers, you can see for E.O. Smith in the region are not very different because for us the region is only the increase of the STAR program in the Depot campus. But our special education, we have 13.8% of our students who are identified as special education students. 15.5 in the region. And 504 students are 12.6% and 12.9. Very small number of English language learners, you can see less than 1%. And our percentage of students who are receiving free or reduced lunch, we're just around the 28% number at both the region and the EO-SNP. So over the last few years, in my last several budgets, we've eliminated some positions, and we've been able to do that primarily as a result of our declining enrollment. And so I think it's important to always highlight to people that while we have decreased our enrollment, we have also been able to eliminate positions, and these have all been as a result of retirements or people moving on to other positions and not needing to have those positions filled. And you'll hear a little bit about some of those that are in this year's budget as well. But as you can see from this presentation, our class sizes in all of the content areas have really maintained a reasonable number, a good number, a number that we're happy with. So our current budget, we have successfully been operating without a freeze, although while this presentation says that, we did just go into a freeze as a result of the recent issues with the coronavirus and added expenses that may be occurring, recurring. So we did just enter a freeze. This maintains all of our class sizes and our current programs. And we did fill this year a mid-year resignation and a retirement with long-term subs. And those are positions we do not anticipate filling in the new budget. Our Special Education Reserve Fund is currently at $613,078. Special Ed Reserve is the account that as a regional high school we are allowed to have. It's the one place we're allowed to have some additional money. And it really protects us in the event we have unforeseen special education expenses, and those can happen fairly easily if one or two students get identified as needing an outplacement, or if students move into district who are already in outplacements, that your special ed budget can significantly increase. So this is a summary of our last 5 budgets. I'd like to point out to you the 2 columns on the end that are blue and yellow. As you can see, the blue column is the budget that I proposed to the board, and the yellow column is the budget that now is being presented to you and includes the reductions that the board included that I'll highlight to you later. So our proposed budget, as you can see, and revised with the Board of Education's changes, represents a gross budget of negative 1.1% and a net budget of a negative 0.02%. And the reason we have that difference between our gross budget and our net budget is that because of the revenues we receive, and I'll show you a slide on revenues as we move forward. So our budget priorities: to maintain comprehensive course offerings and supports to ensure success for all of our students, maintain adequate and equitable class sizes, ensure necessary instructional resources and materials are in place to support teaching and learning, maintain a wide range of extracurricular activities and opportunities that support educating the whole child, address curricular needs that have been identified in an EASC self-study that we just completed, and ensure adequate funding for capital improvements and capital repairs, particularly the photovoltaic project and our roof replacement project that we expect both to happen this summer. The biggest parts of our budget are salaries, insurance, and transportation, so I'd like to highlight those things for you. As you can see here, our certified salary line is actually decreased by $23,310 to 0.22%, a change of 0.22% increase. This, even though you can see on the top of this slide that our certified staff and non-certified staff got 2.75% increases in this budget, and the administrators got a 2% increase, but with the result of some elimination of some positions due to retirements and resignations, we were able to keep that line almost even. And then our non-certified staff, you can see, is a significant decrease, and that's negative $114,310, and that's a minus 4.44% position rate, a change in that line. This is really a reflection of significant special education needs that were here that are no longer here, and that have allowed us to cut back on positions this year that are now falling into next year's budget. So you can see our total budget line, salary line, is a minus 0.70% increase, a decrease actually, decrease. And benefits, you can see this is another line that I'm really pleased to report to you has some significant decreases, just under $100,000 at $98,870 for a minus 3.26%. This is primarily as a result of having a very successful time in we have a self-funded health insurance program, and we've been doing very well in that program, and that has allowed us to not have this budget line increase and actually to have some decrease. You can see here, when you add our salaries and benefits together, it's a 1.18% decrease over last year's budget. I always talk a little bit about special education in tuition, particularly special education tuition in my budget, because as you can see here, in this school year, 1920, we had just over $1 million allocated for special education tuition, and you can see that we've increased that to $1,112,840, and that is a result of additional outplacements that have occurred this year that will be impacting next year's budget. We have made a very purposeful attempt to budget successfully for special education, and we have been quite successful in the last few years at having the budget align with where we are, and that's what's allowed that special education reserve to grow so big. We do receive money from the government. It's called excess cost reimbursement. So the formula that the state uses for this is we're responsible for the first just under $90,000 per student for any kind of tuition, support services, and transportation. So anything above that $89,918 then is refunded to us at approximately 70%. The DCF placements, which is just under $20,000 for any of those costs, we are refunded just about 70% on those. So you can see our projected reimbursement is $280,600. Transportation is another very hefty part of our budget. Sorry. As you can see, our transportation is broken out by our 3 towns. Ashford has a $20,000 increase in theirs, and that is a result of us paying additional funding now for transportation to 2 technical schools that Ashford sends their students to. That we were not getting charged for previously. Mansfield and Wellington reflect contractual changes in the budget. As you can see here, Wellington's rate is more than Mansfield's rate, which for a lot of people wouldn't make sense, in that we have significantly more students from Mansfield. And that is something the superintendent of Wellington and I are talking with M&J Bus Company to see if we can come up with a plan that would allow us to share buses, which would require our students to be on different schedules. So that's just a conversation at this point. Because Mansfield schools start late enough after us that we're able to share our buses, and then they go to the middle school, and that saves us a significant amount of money. But for now, this is the cost in our contract and we have a contract for 1 more year. Our other expense, you can see, is we increased that by $9,000, and that's primarily because we pay additional for half days or freshman orientation when we transport kids to here, and that's has not been enough budgeted in the past. So you can see our overall increase in the transportation line for regular education transportation is just under $50,000. We expect our special education transportation, which is listed here, to really remain the same as the previous year, and we also expect the transportation for athletics to remain the same. So revenue, I talked to you in the beginning about the difference between our net and our gross budget, and this is a result of revenue. So as you can see, we have three primary sources of revenue. One is our ag ed tuition. That's the amount districts who send students here pay for their students to attend here. We have Columbia tuition, which is what, we're a designated high school for Columbia, so their students pay an annual rate to come here. And there's an asterisk there because we have also entered into, recently into a contract with Eastbird, who will send students here. They do not get transportation, but they can come here as a tuition student if their parents can provide transportation. And then we have a few families that have chosen E.O. Smith as their high school, and they also pay us tuition. And those come from Coventry, Vernon, and Glastonbury. Special education tuition is money that we bring in for students that join us, so that has stayed similar over the years. And then the other significant the other significant revenue for us is at the Ag Ed grant. So based on the number of students we have in Ag Ed, we also get money from the state for running an Ag Ed program, and it's amount per student. And so you can see those revenues have declined in all those areas, and that's really tied to declining enrollment in Columbia and fewer students attending our ed program, particularly from Wyndham. We've invested a lot of time and energy into working to provide other students the opportunity to come here and work with other schools. And next year we have at least one student from Brooklyn who's planning to attend. So our member town enrollment, you can see we have 196 students from Ashford. This includes 23 students we transport to tech schools. 554 students from Mansfield. That includes 28 tech students. And we have 202 students from Wellington, including 23 tech students. So the percentage of change, you can see for Ashford was 11.4, Mansfield 4.1, and Wellington 0.5. So our member town contribution. This is the amount that is divided among the region's 3 towns after all of our revenues are considered. And so you can see here the region totals for the 2021 budget is actually $30,000 less than last year. But the way this plays out, you can see Ashford actually has an increase of $226,559, 6.2%. Mansfield has a decrease of $80,640, or 0.7%. And Wellington has a decrease of $176,019 and a decrease of 4.2%. So significant savings and reductions in this budget. We have insurance, which I mentioned to you before, significant reductions in professional and technical services. I'll explain that on the next slide. A reduction in 2 IA positions that were not filled this year. A retirement of 1 science teacher that will not be filled. A resignation of a certified business teacher that we will not fill. And the retirement of a technology education teacher who was at top step and filling that position at a lower step. Some substantial costs in this budget are educational equipment, and that's a big line there at $264,830. And this is all of our technology. This is Chromebooks and smartboards and laptops and Security kiosks, as you might have seen, we've added to the building. Projectors, printers, graphing calculators, microscopes, graphing calculators. There's the list can go on and on. Another significant line is our textbook and library line, $90,540. This is primarily for books, but also online databases and textbook replacements. So they're not all new books, but books that over time wear out and have to be replaced. We've also, one of the lines I've increased significantly in this new budget is curriculum writing. We recently were involved in our NEASC self-study, and one of the areas that has been identified very clearly as needing significant work is our curriculum. This will allow us to address curriculum needs, but to improve our curriculum, get it all in one format, all in one place, revise to meet the most current standards in all content areas, and to include our portrait of a graduate or vision of a graduate attributes into it. And our debt service fund was at $240,000, and this was a result of an increase of $105,000 for our roof replacement. You'll see on a later slide that in the board's reductions that this has actually been dropped some. A significant reduction I want to point out here is the professional and technical services line, $243,240. This is really tied to special education services that the district no longer needs due to students aging out and things like that. So this is a significant savings for us. Some budget considerations. We are estimating 40 fewer students next year. I would like to point out that in the last two budgets, we've eliminated a certified social studies, English, mathematics position, an IT position, and 2 instructional assistants. And now we will be eliminating science and business. I would like to point out to everyone, and I know I already have to the board, that we will not be able to continue reducing these positions. This has been able to happen because they've been across content areas, but at this point our class sizes would start to be impacted if we start to take 2 people from those positions, if we had other retirements. This also, one of the things the board knows in my time here, I worked very hard at developing a plan for technology upgrades and replacements, and also security, increasing security plans for replacement of cameras, maintenance, expanding usage of the sign-in system that we use for security. So these are all things that are important, I feel very strongly, are important for us to continue. Our capital budget, we have $37,000. We received a grant for security for the Depot campus, and this will include ongoing upgrades that have been started and will primarily be done next year. $75,000 annually goes into the information technology budget. A lot of that has to do with infrastructure and those kinds of things. And then we have things like a sprinkler head replacements. We know that in 10 years we have to replace all of those in the building. That's a hefty price, and we don't want to be surprised by that. So we're trying to be thoughtful and plan to put those things into the budget now so that money will be there when the time comes. And then furniture replacement, we have $26,000 to finish replacing the tables in the cafeteria. We've been doing that over several years, and this will be the end of doing that. And then every year we put money into the athletic field account for both track reconditioning and at some point replacing the turf field. And our maintenance budget, this is also under capital. This includes things like our greenhouses that need continual maintenance, and one of these will be getting a replacement shade. Our ag ed we've been steadily replacing the carpet in the building, which is quite old. In many places replacing it with tile. So there's some in ag that we still need to do. Our stair treads on all our stairs are really worn, and we want to prevent that becoming a safety issue, so we're replacing all of those for $23,000. We are working at trying to develop a plan for a world language, very small staff bathroom in an office in there for that hallway. We did have one staff bathroom in that hallway that was given up this year and become a single-use bathroom for students or staff. So we really need one more in that area. And then, of course, our big projects this summer, the roof project and the photovoltaic project. So again, I think this budget reflects very responsible budgeting that continues to meet the needs of the school, including security upgrades, technology replacement, curriculum writing, while reducing where we can, including not filling positions in science and business education. So between when I first presented this budget that you saw and my proposed budget and those figures, some things came to my attention that we needed to add to this budget, and one of those was a 0.6 French position. The reason we need to add that is our enrollment in French between the sending middle schools and our own classes here has just skyrocketed, so that was added into the budget at $28,900. And then also we added an employee assistance program partway through this school year. This came after we lost a student to suicide and felt like we needed more support services for our staff. But also we have learned that this organization will be able to provide us with a number of trainings that we now have to pay people for. Some things tied to sexual harassment that are now required, they can provide that training for. They did training for our entire staff this year on what's called QPR training, which is suicide prevention training. So this money, this was not in the budget, and I felt like we needed to put it in. Some of the reductions that the Board of Ed came to come to the budget that you were presented earlier. Our debt service, we decided with consultation from Sherry Trey and our finance director that we could transfer $50,000 out of that line and still meet all of our debt needs. As you saw, our special education reserve fund has grown quite big because we've budgeted so successfully and been successful in the last few years with special education budgets. So we're going to transfer $75,000 out of that line toward this budget. We removed $2,000 out of textbook replacements. We had a certified teacher recently request to reduce to a 0.6 position, and we are able to do that without having any impact on classes. And IT, we have $2,350 taken out of their budget for some minor IT replacements, a laptop, some monitors. And then 2520 miscellaneous items. It was 500 here, 500 there from a number of small places like team fees and food for culinary that has a big line item, things like that. So the Board of Ed, from the reduction I presented to them, even with the things I added, are now reducing the budget by $133,580. So I showed you this slide again to show you that the budget that the Board of Ed has proposed putting forward to the public tonight is $22,003,790, and this is a reduction of gross reduction of 1.1%, minus 1.1%, and a net of minus 0.2%. So at this time, I'd like to welcome any questions.
At this point in time, there are no questions.